She thought he was just a cowboy with a quiet mouth and a strong back, but no ranch hand moves like that. No stranger guards you like he already made a promise. Whatever he was, Lauren could feel it. He was more than he let on, and she wasn't sure if that made her safer or in more danger. The Arizona sun dipped behind the Red Rock Ridge, casting a sky of copper and blood. Lauren Jones rode alone, reins slack in one hand, her fingers gently brushing Misty's warm neck. She had taken this trail more times than she could count, but today, the air carried a strange tension, like the desert was holding its breath. The heat had long since baked the land. Sunlight spilled across cracked earth, through brittle weeds searching in vain for shade. The silence felt thick and restless. As always, when something gnawed at her, Lauren had saddled Misty and set out from the ranch. Riding let her think. It gave her space to feel free, to lose herself in wind and rhythm. As the breeze danced through Misty's mane, Lauren let the mare pick up speed. The faster they went, the more it felt like her troubles might peel away behind her, scattered across the trail. But the escape didn't last. A rattlesnake slithered into their path. Misty reared with a terrified shriek, twisting sharply to the side. Lauren's grip on the reins held for a few precious seconds, until she lost it. She was thrown from the saddle, her body yanked by momentum, the reins dragging her a few feet before she was flung hard to the ground. She tucked instinctively, hitting the dirt shoulder first. Pain shot through her ankle as it twisted on landing. Lauren lay there, coughing against the cloud of dust kicked up by the fall. Her eyes stung, her heart raced. She tried to sit up, scanning for the snake, uncertain if it was still nearby. The trail slowly came back into focus. Her ankle throbbed, already swelling. Walking was out of the question. Then came the sound of an engine. A low, rumbling approach. Familiar, steady. A truck. She turned toward the noise, squinting through the dust. A battered red pickup rolled into view. Arizona plates barely visible, under a crust of dirt. The vehicle came to a stop right beside her. Relief flooded her chest. "Thank God," she muttered. "Whoever it is, sure picked the right damn time." The driver's door opened with a metallic groan. First, she saw black cowboy boots hitting the ground, then a silver belt buckle flashing in the sun. A wide-brimmed hat shaded the rest. The glare and dust made it hard to see his face, but the shape of him was unmistakable. Tall, broad-shouldered, purposeful. The man walked over and stood above her, not saying a word. "You hurt?" he asked at last, his voice even and calm, but distant, like someone used to keeping things to himself. Already flustered by the fall, Lauren felt strangely self-conscious under his gaze. That cool voice didn't help. Still, she managed to answer. "I'll live," she muttered. "Ankle's busted, I reckon. Can't stand on it." He crouched beside her. His movements were smooth, methodical. "Gonna check it, all right?" Lauren nodded, not quite trusting her voice. He touched her ankle with firm but careful fingers, moving it slightly left and right. Pain surged up her leg and her face twisted involuntarily. He noticed. For the first time their eyes met. He was younger than she'd thought. Dirty blonde stubble along his jaw, sun-worn skin, sharp green eyes under dark lashes. Not just handsome, striking, and yet when he looked at her, his eyes didn't linger or assess. They read her pain, not her body. "Name's Scott," he said, low. "Working up the road, come on, I'll get you home." Lauren hesitated. "What about Misty?" "I'll take care of her after you're safe." Without asking, he slid his arms under her and lifted her off the ground. She gasped, startled by his strength, but there was no effort in his motion, just quiet command. "Arm round my shoulder," he murmured. "Helps keep you steady." Lauren complied, too surprised not to. He carried her like she weighed nothing at all, placing her gently in the front seat of the truck. Then he reached into the back and pulled out an old blanket. He handed it to her without a word. Lauren looked at it, confused. He nodded toward her chest. Might want to cover up. For comfort. Only then did she notice. The front of her shirt had torn in the fall. Her bra was fully exposed. Her face flushed hot with embarrassment. She grabbed the blanket and pulled it around herself quickly, heart thudding. I'm half naked in front of a total stranger, she thought, mortified. God, what next? Scott climbed into the driver's seat and turned the key in the ignition. The engine rumbled to life. He turned toward her, his voice quieter now. Where are we headed? Jones Ranch, 5 miles west. She tried to speak with authority, but the warmth in her cheeks betrayed her. He nodded once and pulled out onto the road. For a few minutes they rode in silence, the cab filled with the sound of tires crunching gravel. Then casually he asked, You got a name? She paused. Lauren Jones. He glanced over. You the rancher's daughter? I was. I own it now. She folded the blanket tighter around her chest. You always scoop up girls off the dirt or just feeling generous today. It was half a joke, half a test to see if he could relax a little. Scott's mouth curved just slightly. Only on Wednesdays. Lauren let out a soft laugh, surprised by it, so he could joke. Good to know. So who are you really? She asked. Where were you going? He gave her a sidelong glance, one brow raised. Scott Evans. I work a few miles out. Just started. What kind of work? His answer was short. I fix things. But his gaze lingered on her now, measured, unreadable. When they pulled up to her ranch house, he parked neatly by the porch. Before she could unbuckle, he was out of the truck and opening her door. Then, without asking, he scooped her up again. The blanket slipped. She fumbled to cover herself, but Scott didn't even look down. He carried her steadily, his eyes fixed ahead. Arms up round my neck, he said, quieter. Easier that way. She did, and her head rested against his chest. That's when she noticed his scent. Not sweat and dust like most ranch hands, but something different. Clean. Cedar wood, maybe a hint of lemon. Fresh. Masculine. 2 put together for a ranch worker. He carried her inside and laid her gently on the couch, pulling a second blanket over her legs. Every move was precise, respectful. No comments, no glances, no ego. He must be married, Lauren thought, surprised at her own disappointment. Married men don't let themselves look. You got a med kit? He asked. In the kitchen, top cabinet. He returned a minute later and sat at her feet, cleaned the cuts on her ankle with antiseptic, packed it in ice, said nothing more than what was needed. She watched him work, still unsure what to make of this stranger. I'll go get your horse, he said simply, standing up. Then he was gone. From the window, Lauren watched him disappear down the trail. The last sliver of daylight lit the edge of the sky in burnt gold. A few minutes later, she saw him again, walking slowly, Misty at his side. He spoke to her in a voice too quiet to hear, but whatever he said, it worked. Misty followed him without hesitation. No grand gestures, no showing off, just quiet control. Something shifted inside Lauren. Not love. Not yet, but trust. A fragile, unfamiliar kind of trust, stirring like dust in a beam of golden light. Scott came back in, brushing the trail off his sleeves. Stay for food, she said. This time, her voice was soft, almost uncertain. He hesitated, just for a second, then nodded. Misty had been taken care of. Scott had led her gently into the stable, given her water, loosened the straps of the saddle, and stayed until she'd calmed. When he returned, Lauren had been waiting for him, leaning against the window, watching the porch through glass streaked with dusk. "Thank you," she said softly, "for taking care of Misty." Scott nodded, offering no more than that. "Come in, there's soup," Lauren added, her voice casual but unsure. "Nothing fancy. Probably too simple for someone like you." He gave the slightest smile. "Simplicity matters, especially when you're hungry for peace, not food." There was something tired behind those words, a heaviness not born of labor, but memory. Lauren felt it, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. In the kitchen, she ladled soup into bowls, while Scott stood just behind, not quite close, not quite distant. He didn't look like a stranger. He moved like someone who had known this house in another life. Calm, attentive. He noticed everything: the crooked door handle, the soft flicker in the overhead bulb, the worn stain near the rug. "You're more than a ranch hand," Lauren said, her back still turned as she stirred. Scott didn't respond right away. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," she said, setting down the ladle. "It's not on your face. It's in your hands. The way you touch things like they might break. You fix things quietly, but something in you is still missing." He sat at the edge of the table, folding his hands slowly. "Everyone carries battles," he said. "Some are won, some are buried, some just stay." Lauren looked at him carefully. His silence wasn't awkward, it was shaped, carved. The kind of silence that came from long miles and few answers. She hesitated. "Then let me ask you something honest," she said. He didn't move. "Go ahead. You got a wife?" His brow twitched, just barely, but his voice stayed even. "No, I don't have a wife." "Family?" "Far away." "Y'all don't talk no more?" Scott's eyes drifted for a moment. The answer came without delay, but it carried the weight of a long road behind it. "No," he said quietly. "Just, some roads go too far to turn back." There was nothing more to ask. The words were clear, but what lay beneath them stayed hidden. She picked up her bowl and moved to the table. They ate in near silence. The occasional clink of spoons, the wind brushing against the windows. Then, as if something inside her had reached its edge, she said it. "You took care of me today. I mean, really took care of me. Thanks." Scott looked at her, quiet again. "You needed help. That's all. You didn't have to go back for Misty." He leaned back slightly. "I saw what she meant to you. If I'd left her, you wouldn't have been able to rest." Lauren nodded slowly, biting the corner of her lip. "I'm glad it was you today. Guess if fate's feeling generous again, maybe we'll cross paths." As soon as she said it, she regretted it. It sounded too open, too vulnerable. She tried to pull it back. "I mean, you know, if we run into each other." She winced at her own attempt to save it. "Just didn't want to leave without saying thanks. Maybe I owe you a drink or something if we run into each other again." "Sure," Scott said, tipping his hat just slightly, "but I might beat you to it." He stood, calm as ever, and stepped out onto the porch. Lauren followed him with her eyes through the window. He moved toward his truck, boots quiet on the wood. The engine started. The taillights blinked red once, then faded, and still she stood there staring after him. "You're more than just a cowboy, Scott Evans," she thought. "Who are you, really?" That night, Lauren didn't leave anything to chance. After Scott drove off, she turned off the porch light, checked the locks twice. Doors, windows, even the barn latch. The silence inside her house felt too thin, like it could split open if she breathed too loud. She moved slower than usual, limping on her sore ankle, favoring it without thinking. Misty was safe in the stable, but something else was stirring. A restlessness that didn't come from fear, but from instinct. She packed a small duffel and set it by the nightstand. Her father's shotgun leaned against the wall like an old promise she hadn't wanted to keep until now. Maybe it was paranoia, maybe not. The land was hers now, all 80 acres of it. A year ago, there had been workers, voices in the field, trucks on the gravel, but debt stacked quick after her father died, and the last two hands walked off 2 days ago, payless and tired. Now it was just her. She lay in bed, eyes on the ceiling. Her ankle pulsed with heat. The desert night pressed in around her, still and dry. Right before sleep almost took her, she thought of Scott, the red truck, the way he'd carried her, the steady, wordless kind of help that stuck in your bones. Maybe she trusted him because she wanted to. Maybe it was just loneliness curling at the edges. The night turned cold fast. A dry snap cracked somewhere outside. Lauren's eyes opened. Another sound. Closer, sharp, deliberate. She swung her legs out of bed, grabbed the shotgun. Her boot barely fit over her ankle, but she forced it, limped to the window, and pulled back the curtain with 2 fingers. The moonlight lit the yard in silver and shadow. 3 figures moved beyond the fence, slow, like they'd done this before. She squinted toward the barn, then saw it. Behind the stable, something flickered. Flames rising from the old workers' shack. The roof hadn't caught yet, but it would. They were setting fires. Her chest tightened. Misty was still inside. Her hand gripped the shotgun harder. She stepped out onto the porch. The air smelled of wood smoke and something older, like danger before it showed its teeth. 2 of the men were at the stable doors, pushing and prying. One stood back by the fence, just watching. Then she saw him strike a match. She raised the shotgun. "Don't move! I'll get the sheriff on you!" They froze, briefly. Then the one by the fence started walking toward her. Lauren didn't wait. She aimed low and pulled the trigger. The shot hit dirt a few feet in front of him. A cloud of dust rose in the moonlight. He stopped. For a second, their eyes met. His weren't scared, just surprised, like he hadn't expected her to shoot. Her heart pounded, but her hands held steady. He didn't see her as a threat. Not yet. You can do this, she told herself. You have to. With one hand, she pulled out her phone, unlocked it, scrolled. Sheriff Williams. Her thumb hovered. The man on the ground didn't back off. Then he charged. She stepped back fast, phone slipping. He hit the front door with his shoulder. Once, twice. The hinges groaned. The frame cracked. She backed toward the hall, shotgun up, breath stuck in her throat. Then a voice came through the dark. "Back off that door. Now." It wasn't loud, but it cut through everything. Lauren turned toward the side window. A figure stood at the edge of the barn, steady, silent. "Scott!" The man on the porch turned, but Scott was already moving. He took him down fast. One clean strike. The second guy lunged from the side, but Scott caught his arm, spun, and threw him hard into the dirt. The third ran. Scott didn't chase. He didn't have to. Lauren stood frozen in the doorway. Her hands still clenched the shotgun, but her body couldn't move. Scott stood over the 2 men groaning on the ground, his breath even, his eyes on her. "You all right?" She nodded, barely. Then everything seemed to return at once. She turned and ran, straight toward the stable. The fire behind the shack still burned, but the barn itself hadn't caught. Smoke hung low, thick in the air. "Misty!" she called. The mare was inside, eyes wide, flanks heaving, but unharmed. Just scared. Lauren whispered to her, hands stroking her neck, voice low and firm until the horse calmed. When she turned, Scott was already dragging a hose from the side of the house, spraying down the burning shack. The flames hissed and crackled but didn't climb higher. When the fire was out, they dragged the tied man to the edge of the pen near the old feed shelter. Scott secured him to a support beam, checking the knots twice. Lauren leaned against the fence, breath shaky. She looked at the man, his face half lit by moonlight. "Do you know him?" Scott asked. Lauren shook her head. No, but someone sent him. She reached for her phone again. I should call the sheriff now. Scott's gaze was steady. He's too far this late. We'll call first thing. He knows the place. He knows me. Lauren didn't argue. Not this time. They walked back toward the house together. Quiet. The wind had picked up. The smell of smoke lingered. Scott didn't say much. He just grabbed an old chair from the porch and set it where he could see both the house and the barn. No worry, ain't going nowhere, he whispered. Lauren hesitated at the door, then nodded. Okay. Inside, she locked the door behind her, but for the first time in days, she didn't feel alone. Outside, Scott sat under the stars, one boot on the rail, his eyes scanning the dark, just watching, waiting. The sun was slow to rise over the dusty ridges of Silver Valley. It washed the land in a pale light, quiet and unhurried. Lauren sat on the porch steps, hands wrapped around a warm mug of coffee. The night still clung to her shoulders like something wet and heavy. In daylight, everything looked stranger. Was it real? The fire. The man tied to the post. The weight of fear that hadn't quite left her chest. Scott approached from the yard. Same gray shirt, same jeans. The sleeves were streaked with ash, the fabric torn at the cuff. He hadn't slept. It showed in the bruised skin under his eyes and the small cuts on his knuckles. Sheriff's on his way, he said, voice even. They'll take the man from the shed. Lauren looked at him, her brow furrowed. He's been there all night? Scott nodded. Didn't say a word. She exhaled, eyes drifting to the pasture. Misty stood calm, head lowered, grazing near the barn. The shack was charred and black, but the fire had never reached the stable. It could have. It didn't. That was something. In the distance, the crunch of tires over gravel. A silver patrol car moved slowly up the road, dust trailing behind. Sheriff Lang stepped out with a short nod, followed by a younger deputy pulling handcuffs and a notepad from the trunk. Lauren's breath caught as they passed. Scott led them toward the shelter. The man was still there, tied to the beam, mouth gagged, wrists wrapped in rough rope. When Sheriff Lang saw him, his expression tightened. That's Thomas Redden, he said, flipping through his notebook. Came up last year in a farm theft case. Not enough to hold him. Looks like now we have more than enough. Lauren didn't answer. This man hadn't just wandered here. He hadn't picked her land at random. Someone had sent him. The deputy pulled Thomas to his feet, cuffed him, and started toward the car. Lauren watched them go, arms folded across her chest. Scott didn't move. His eyes stayed on the scorched edges of the shelter. This wasn't random, he said. Someone wants to scare you, and whatever last night was, that was just the beginning. Lauren turned toward him. Why? He met her gaze. His voice was steady, but softer now. Maybe they want the land, maybe they want you off it, or maybe they just like the mess they can make. A pause, not the kind that dramatizes, the kind that waits for truth to find its breath. Lauren looked back toward the barn. Her voice, when it came, was quiet, almost too small for the morning. I can't fight this alone. Scott didn't look away. You're not alone. She didn't have the words for what that meant. Not yet. But she felt it. There was something about the way he stood, still, watchful, like he belonged to another life entirely. But right now, in hers, he was the only one who hadn't stepped away. And that was something too. When they got back to the porch, Lauren slowed. Something about the quiet pressed closer now that the danger had passed. She turned to Scott. You took down 3 men on your own last night. If you hadn't been there, I don't know what I would have done. Scott gave a small nod, like he didn't want to hold the weight of that sentence for long. The porch roof creaked in the wind, and silence settled for a few seconds, thin but present. Lauren kept her eyes on him. How'd you do it? She asked. I saw the way you fought. You sure you're just a cowboy? She leaned back against the railing, arms crossed, gaze steady. Scott looked at her, then off toward the hills. I was military, he said simply. Lauren tilted her head. Military, huh? What kind? Navy? Special Forces. His tone didn't invite follow-up. It simply was. She bit the side of her lip, something she always did when she was uneasy with how much she'd said. Guess I'm asking too many damn questions, huh? Scott turned to her with a slight crooked grin. I think right now we ought to be talking about you, Lauren, he said. You got anyone out there who's got beef with your family? Someone eyeing your land? Someone making noise? He paused just a second, long enough for his next words to land differently. If it happens again, I gotta know what I'm protecting you from. Lauren raised an eyebrow, the corner of her mouth twitching into a small smile. So what, figured you'd be my bodyguard now? Scott leaned back in his chair, gaze fixed on her. He didn't answer, but the look in his eyes said enough. Lauren looked away first. She shifted back into safer ground. My dad owed money to my ex's family. Garrett, real fine folks, she said dryly. Scott didn't flinch. So why'd you get engaged to a guy like that? He wasn't pushing, just piecing things together. Lauren turned her back to him, rested both arms on the rail. She didn't like how long she'd been holding his eyes. Same reason most girls do, I guess. Seemed impressive at first, but the closer I got, the worse it got. I said yes, 'cause it wiped out Dad's debt. After he passed, I called it off. Garrett didn't exactly take the news kindly. Scott leaned forward now, elbows on his knees, eyes sharper. So you signed yourself over to protect your old man. What did you do to protect yourself when you backed out? If this guy's as bad as you say, Lauren exhaled. I got a gun. Scott stood and stepped beside her, leaning on the railing with both arms. She hadn't realized how close he'd gotten until she could feel the heat off his sleeve. You got a gun, huh? He said, nodding like he was trying not to laugh. Hell of a plan. Lauren turned toward him. He was right there. Well, saw you use it pretty good last night, he said, still holding her gaze. Lauren's reply came too quick. And I saw you use your body pretty damn well, too. The second she said it, her face flushed red. God damn it, Lauren. Say something bold and run for cover. Real smooth. This time, Scott bit back a grin. I'm gonna grab a beer, Lauren said fast, stepping away before the silence stretched too far. As she walked into the kitchen, she muttered under her breath, real nice, compliment his body, then bail for a Bud Light. Way to go, cowgirl. Scott had left early, the sky still half asleep above the valley. He stood at the edge of the porch, bag in hand, and gave Lauren a long look. I'll be back in an hour. Don't leave the house. Don't even think about wandering around. Got it? Lauren gave a nod, but her eyes didn't quite meet his. The moment his truck disappeared beyond the ridge, Lauren grabbed her keys. The nearest town, Woodridge, was a 30-minute blend of gravel and cracked asphalt. She didn't remember most of the drive, not because she wasn't paying attention, she just didn't know why she'd gone. Maybe to hear someone else's voice, maybe to feel like she still belonged to something that wasn't unraveling. She pulled into the feed store lot without a plan, just muscle memory. Inside, Marvin looked up from his paper. Miss Jones, heard about the trouble out at your place. Lauren kept her jaw tight. News sure travels fast. Not faster than Easton's boys. They've been sniffing around every ranch within 30 miles, pushing papers, stirring dust. Lauren blinked. Easton? Garrett Easton. Ain't he your ex? Runs that crooked land outfit up in Prescott? The name felt like gravel in her throat. She hadn't heard it about him since 5 months. You're saying he's the one behind this? Not just yours. He's been pressuring folks, sending out trucks, making it known that land's either for sale or forfeit. Lauren barely said goodbye. She drove back like the road owed her answers. When she pulled up to the house, Scott was on the porch, bag at his feet, arms crossed. Which part of "don't leave the house" didn't land for you? He asked without raising his voice. Lauren jumped out of the truck. It's him, Garrett. Those men last night, they were his. He's buying up land and running folks off their property. I heard it in town, Scott. It's all him. She stopped, seeing the bag again. You leaving? Scott shook his head. Staying. But your job? Quit. Lauren's heart stumbled in her chest. Scott, I can't pay you. I don't have that kind of money. He was already walking the fence line, eyeing a loose post. Don't need it. I've got my own. Now where do you keep your tools? Lauren's lips twitched, failing to hold back the smile that pushed forward. He was staying. He was hers to lean on, even if just for now. She turned to go inside, calling over her shoulder. In the back closet by the pantry, Scott's voice followed her. And next time you go anywhere, I'll be with you. If I'm going to be your bodyguard, might as well do the job right. Inside, Lauren grabbed the toolbox, still grinning like a fool. To hell with luck, she muttered to herself. Lauren, girl, whatever this is, it's better than luck. That evening, the house smelled like something good was happening. Lauren moved through the kitchen with quiet confidence, her hands steady as she turned the roast in the pan, checked the potatoes in the oven. Scott sat at the table, watching her, not staring, but observing the way her hair caught the warm light, the graceful way she moved around the space like it was built for her. There was something about the way she chopped, stirred, tasted, that spoke of years spent learning not just how to cook, but how to comfort. Lauren noticed the look. His eyes flicked away the moment she turned. I see you, she said, smirking. You've been watching me. Scott didn't deny it. You're talking. I'm listening. Nothing wrong with looking too. She smiled and turned back to the stove. My mom died when I was 7. It was just me and my dad after that. I got good in the kitchen real young. Even when we had help around the house, I never let the cook touch Sunday dinner. Scott's gaze didn't waver, not this time. Lauren brought the food to the table. Burrito roast, crispy potatoes on the side. She sat down across from him and gestured lightly toward his plate. Go on, give it a try. Scott forked a piece of the roast and took a bite. He gave a slow nod. You did good, real good. Lauren's voice softened. You know, it's been 5 months since I made dinner for someone. Sat across a table like this. Felt like I wasn't eating alone. Scott looked at her, really looked. Her eyes weren't asking for pity, just telling the truth. You being here, it's helped, she added. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel steadier with you around. They ate in silence for a few moments. But Scott never stopped watching her, like she might vanish if he blinked too long. He didn't say it out loud, but something had shifted inside him, something protective, deep, and undeniable. For the first time in a long time, he felt responsible for someone else, and for once, it didn't feel heavy. Lauren kept talking, maybe about the ranch, maybe about her plans for the week. Scott only half heard. The rest of him was caught on the way her voice filled the kitchen. On the way, her smile made the place feel less like a fight and more like a home. Later that night, the house had gone quiet again. Midnight crept close, but Scott was nowhere to be seen. Lauren stepped out onto the porch, beer in hand, scanning the dark. She headed toward the barn, Misty's shadow barely visible in the moonlight. That's when she saw him, leaning against the fence at the edge of the field, quiet, still, like part of the land itself. She walked over slowly and stood beside him, resting her elbow on the top rail. What are you doing out here? Scott didn't answer right away. She handed him the beer. He took a few sips, then passed it back, eyes never quite leaving hers. Why do you look at me like that? She asked. He turned to her, brow raised slightly. Like what? Like you're saying something, but I can't quite hear it. He gave the faintest smile. Maybe I'm not all that easy to understand. Yeah, I got that much. You're a mystery, Scott Evans. Maybe I like it that way. Lauren glanced back toward the house. Come on. You're not sleeping out here. The place has 5 bedrooms. Seems wasteful. You sleeping in the barn. He looked at her again, more serious this time. You sure? She nodded. I trust you. At least more than I trust the kind of men that come knocking with threats. Scott stepped a little closer. Well, I'm honored by that. She laughed lightly, taking another sip from the bottle. Then Scott crouched, pointed to the ground near the fence. Someone was here. Lauren looked, but saw only dirt. I soaked this patch just before dinner, made sure of it. Only reason to do that is to see who's walking where they shouldn't be. Lauren's breath caught. You think someone was out here while we were eating? He nodded. Footprints, fresh ones. Came in through this side, quiet, watched. Her voice dropped. Should we call the sheriff? Not yet. Let's keep it between us for now. She stepped closer to him. I feel safer when you're here. Scott gave a slow nod. All right, let's head in. They walked back toward the house side by side, the field behind them holding its breath. Lauren dropped a stack of clean linens on the edge of the guest bed. The room still held echoes of her mother, the faded pink floral wallpaper, the oversized mirror, the scent of lavender she hadn't been able to scrub out of the wood. Scott stood in the middle of the room, arms crossed, eyeing the decor like he'd been dropped into a dollhouse. Not exactly the most manly room, Lauren said with a grin. But I figure you'll survive. Scott chuckled. Might even grow to like pink. Who knows? He sat on the edge of the bed, testing the mattress. Lauren lingered by the doorway. My room's just next door, she said quickly. He nodded. Got it. Good night, Scott. Night, Lauren. She closed her door and leaned against it, the cool wood pressing into her back. She whispered to herself, I'm fine. I'll be fine. She changed, slid under the covers. From down the hall, she heard the creak of floorboards, Scott moving quietly, heading downstairs. Of course he wasn't sleeping. Men like him didn't just close their eyes and drift off, but for the first time in 5 months, Lauren did. In her dream, she was on Misty, behind Scott, her arms wrapped tightly around his strong back. Her cheek rested against his shoulder. She could feel the muscle beneath his shirt, solid and still. His scent, cedar and dust, filled her lungs. She breathed him in like she needed it to stay asleep. The light hit her first, bright, blinding, straight through the curtains. Then the horn, long and angry. Lauren jerked awake, her heart already pounding. Lauren, you lying piece of trash, get your ass outside. She scrambled, eyes darting. The room was dark, shadows deep. She reached for her robe, fingers fumbling for the belt, but it wasn't where she left it. Her head spun. She rushed to the window and yanked it open. Night air rushed in like a slap. Get out of here, Garrett, I called the sheriff. You and your boys don't scare me, not one damn bit. The truck's headlights dipped low. That's when she saw him, really saw him. Bloodshot eyes, staggered stance, standing just 4, maybe 5 yards from the porch. One hand too close to the pistol on his hip. The other wrapped tight around Misty's lead rope. Her heart dropped to her feet. He grinned like it was nothing, like holding that rope wasn't the dirtiest threat he could throw. Come on out, Lauren, he slurred. Misty and we got some talking to do with you. Lauren tore from the room. Scott's door was wide open, empty. She hit the stairs fast, barefoot, skipping 2 steps at a time. The screen door slammed behind her. Misty, her 12th birthday gift from her father. They'd grown up together. Out here, friends were rare, just grown-ups and Misty. No one else stuck around. Not really. Misty had. Garrett knew that, knew exactly what that horse meant to her. The bastard. Lauren burst out the front door, barefoot and shaking with fury. She hadn't grabbed her shotgun, realized it mid-step, but it was too late now. God damn it, Garrett, what the hell do you think you're doing? She stormed toward him, the porch lights cutting shadows across the gravel. Her voice was fire, her eyes locked on Misty, then Garrett. You ain't getting my land, and you sure as hell ain't getting me. Garrett stood there, breath thick with booze. The stench rolled toward her like a wave. His shirt was half unbuttoned, boots uneven in the dirt. He swayed slightly, but his grin was steady. And when he looked at her, barely covered in that thin nightgown, he didn't speak right away. Just stared. Then he chuckled. Damn, baby, you always knew how to rile a man up. Didn't ya? He stepped forward. 1, 2, 3 paces. Back off, Garrett. Let go of Misty. I mean it. More movement. Behind Garrett's truck, maybe 10 yards back, another pair of headlights flicked off. 2 doors creaked open. 2 men stepped out. Lauren's heart dropped. Garrett's voice dropped to a mock sweetness. Then you're coming with me, baby girl, or I shoot your precious horse right here and now. You hear me? You owe me, you and this land, and if I'm honest, I've missed you. Lauren brought both hands to her head, trying to think, to stay steady. Scott still hadn't appeared. 3 of them. No backup, no weapon. Garrett took 2 steps toward Lauren. There were barely feet between them now. Come on, sweetheart, he coaxed. You know I don't mind taking what's mine. Don't make me work for it. Lauren started to back up, but Garrett lunged. His arms wrapped around her before she could scream. She kicked and struggled, fists pounding against him. Let go of me, he laughed, hoisting her up over his shoulder. Her nightgown clung to her legs, dirt catching her skin. She fought, wild and furious. Behind them, JD and the other man roared with laughter. Don't drop her, Garrett. Show her how we used to do it. Then a blast, loud enough to split the dark. The force tossed all 3 men like rag dolls. Garrett went down, taking Lauren with him. Her back hit the ground hard. She kicked, pushed, scrambled toward the porch on her elbows. Glass bit into her hands. Her knees, sharp, unforgiving. She gasped, dragging herself over the splinters. Garrett stayed down, hands thrown over his head, crouched like a cornered dog. JD, he shouted, voice cracking. JD, get over here! Lauren looked up, squinting into the smoke and firelight. That's when she saw him, Scott, emerging from the shadows, twin pistols in hand, fire behind him, every step slow, steady, deliberate. He nudged one of the fallen men with his boot, walked a few more feet and grabbed JD by the collar, dragging him like a sack of dirt. He stopped in front of Garrett, threw JD down at his feet. Lauren stared, mouth open, heart pounding. He looked like he'd walked straight out of a movie poster. Sweet Jesus, she thought. He's insane. Scott leveled his gun at Garrett. 3 men, 1 woman, unarmed. Real tough of you. Garrett staggered to his feet, eyes wild. Who the hell are you? You the one blew up my truck? You crazy son of a... Scott fired. The bullet hit right in front of Garrett's boot. Dust sprayed up. Hand off the gun, Scott said flat. Now! He glanced at Lauren without turning his body. Take it from his belt. Lauren stood, wobbling slightly on the steps. Scott saw the blood trickling down her legs. She lifted a hand. I'm fine. She stepped down, ripped the pistol from Garrett's waistband, then muttered a curse at him under her breath. Back up, Scott ordered. He moved between them in the porch, gun still raised, planting himself like a wall. You're gonna turn around, get your buddy off the ground, and get the hell off this land. Neither man moved. You hear me? Scott barked. Garrett and JD slowly backed off, still stunned. Garrett climbed into the truck, threw one last look over his shoulder, hand twitching like he wanted to say something, but didn't. He started the engine. The 3rd guy got dragged in behind them. They peeled off down the road, past the burning wreck, swallowed by the dark. Scott was tending the cuts on Lauren's knees while she talked nonstop. I saw you walking through those flames. Scott, what the hell? How'd you blow up that truck? Why didn't you show up the second I came out? Did you see Garrett's face? He damn near pissed himself. What if they come back tonight? What if... Scott raised a hand, gently pressed his fingers to her lips. Lauren, they're not coming back tonight, but I've got a plan. We're leaving for a couple days. I'll find someone to fix the windows while we're gone. Pack a bag. We're going to town. She blinked. Town? You mean Prescott? No, he said, pulling a small shard of glass from her palm. Phoenix. Lauren flinched, grabbed his wrist with a hiss of pain. Scott looked straight at her. Got it. They locked eyes. Neither moved for a long moment. Lauren finally spoke, her voice lower now. I've been running my mouth, but I never said thank you. Her gaze searched his face. Why are you doing all this for me? It's a lot. Scott finished wrapping her hand, then held it gently between both of his. His voice was steady, quiet, because someone's gotta protect you, Lauren, from this place, from people like them. Maybe you need protecting, and maybe I need someone to protect. Lauren let out a breath, shook her head, smiling faintly. You're always gonna be the mystery type, huh? Scott gave a nod, already standing. We leave in an hour. Grab anything that matters. About 15 minutes into the 2.5-hour drive, Lauren had drifted off mid-sentence. Her head leaned lightly against the window, breath even, hands relaxed in her lap. Scott glanced over. Reaching behind the seat with one hand, he pulled forward the old blanket stashed in the back and draped it carefully over her. When his fingers brushed against her hair, they paused for a moment, just long enough to tuck a strand away from her face. Then he pulled back, eyes narrowing, as he turned his attention back to the road. Phoenix. The city he grew up in. He hadn't set foot there in over a year. He managed the business remotely now, weekly check-ins, occasional signatures. He didn't miss the pace, the people, or the expectations, but it was a family company, and Scott had never been the kind of man to walk away from responsibility. He wouldn't start now. He was going to protect what mattered, Lauren included. He glanced at her again. Damn, he was starting to get used to her being there. Lauren stirred at the sound of Scott's voice. Come on, Lauren. We're here. She opened her eyes slowly. The first thing she saw was sunlight spilling over the distant mountains, soft and gold, just beginning to touch the world awake. Turning her head, she caught a glimpse of a man in uniform opening her door. Morning, ma'am. Welcome to the Arizona Valley Hotel. As she stepped out of the truck, Lauren's breath caught in her throat. The place was stunning. The entrance unfurled into a sprawling garden, hedges sculpted with impossible care, white flowers blooming like they knew they were being watched. Just beyond that, tall glass doors opened into a quiet lobby wrapped in soft light, floor-to-ceiling windows catching every inch of the rising sun, marble floors, warm wood beams, a fountain murmuring in the corner. This was not some dusty roadside motel. This was something else entirely. Lauren blinked. Scott, what is this place? Scott reached into the bed of the truck for their bags. Family has a share in the property. We'll be safe here, and no one will ask questions. Lauren looked back at the grand entrance, then at the man standing beside her in dusty jeans and a worn shirt, calm as ever. Of course he had a stake in a place like this, and of course he made it sound like it was no big deal. Scott gave a small nod to the man at the front desk. Take the lady to her room, will you? Lauren didn't question it. Not out loud, anyway. But her eyes stayed on Scott as she walked toward the elevator. Just before the doors closed, he looked over his shoulder and gave a small hand signal. You go. I'll catch up. Inside the elevator, Lauren turned to the young man carrying her bag. The man I came with, Scott Evans. Do you know him? The bellhop blinked. No, ma'am. Haven't seen him before. But this floor is usually reserved for our top-tier guests, so I figure he's someone important. The elevator chimed. The 4th floor. Top level. When the door opened, Lauren stepped into a room that looked like it belonged in a design magazine. Clean white walls, camel leather accents, glass that stretched from floor to ceiling. She dropped her bag on the bed and stepped out onto the balcony. Oh my God, it overlooks the pool, she said with a surprised grin. Then came the knock. She opened the door to find Scott leaning against the frame, hat still on. You settling in all right? Lauren grabbed his arm and pulled him in. Scott, caught off guard, found himself standing in the middle of the room. Lauren backed against the door, blocking it like she didn't want him leaving. Scott, what is this? This hotel. It's unreal, expensive. Who are you really? Why are we here? Scott didn't flinch. He took 2 steps forward and placed one hand beside her head, palm flat against the door. My family's got a stake in this place. I stay here when I'm in Phoenix. Now I'm heading into town for a bit. Few hours tops. You? Relax, swim. If you need anything, go downstairs and give them my name. Got it? Lauren crossed her arms. No, I don't got it. I was just starting to trust you. And now all these pieces don't add up. So tell me what I need to know. Deal? Scott glanced at the floor, then back up with that half smile. So now a little money makes me suspicious? Lauren tilted her head. Let's see. Ranch hand, soldier, Rambo blowing up trucks. And now, hotel-owning mystery man. You tell me, what here solid ground? Scott's hand was still on the door. His other came up slowly, brushing a strand of her hair behind her ear. Fingers lingered along her jaw. There was softness in the touch, tender but unreadable. We'll talk when I get back, he said. He gently guided her away from the door, then turned, hand on the knob. Have some fun, but don't leave the hotel. Wait for me. Few hours, tops, then he was gone. Lauren lay stretched out on a lounger, sunlight warming her skin, the white bikini she'd just bought hugging her like a second layer. Vacations had ended with her mother's death. Since then, she'd barely left the ranch. Years of debt, her father's decline, keeping things afloat, it had all bled out the idea of rest. And now here she was. 24 hours ago, there were explosions, gunfire, fear. Now, poolside at a five-star hotel, watching the palm trees dance in the breeze. Her thoughts wandered too far to stop. She didn't notice the waiter until the shadow fell over her. "Ma'am," he said, placing a single cocktail on the table beside her. "Compliments of the gentleman at the bar." She blinked, sat up. "I didn't order this," she said slowly. The waiter nodded toward the bar. Lauren squinted past her sunglasses, then lifted them off for a better look. The man at the bar, white linen shirt, pale blue pants, tanned, relaxed. Scott, not a trace of the dusty cowboy. He raised his glass with a lazy smile. Lauren grabbed her cover-up, threw it over her shoulders, and strode toward the bar, drink in hand. "Well now," she said, sliding onto the stool beside him. "I came here with a cowboy named Scott Evans. Other name's Rambo. But you don't look like either." Scott chuckled, sipping his drink. "The bikini looks good on you." Lauren leaned an elbow on the bar, eyes fixed on him. "Where'd you go, Scott?" Scott leaned back against the bar, the low light of the patio warming the side of his face. "I had a few conversations about the Garrett situation," he said casually. Lauren tilted her head, arching a brow. "A few conversations? What does that mean? Don't tell me you sent a hit squad after him." She laughed, sharp and teasing, but her expression quickly sobered. "Wait, you're not gonna hurt him, are you? I mean, God, Scott, those explosions, the way you came out of the fire like that, do you kill people?" Scott chuckled, reaching over to take the cocktail from her hand and setting it on the bar. "No, Lauren, no one's dead, but I think this drink might be hitting you a little harder than you think." Lauren snatched her glass back, her voice tightening. "Why do you have so much money? This hotel, your clothes, the whole order whatever you want vibe? Don't brush me off this time. If you brought me here, if you stayed, if you say you're on my side, then you owe me the truth. What's going on, Scott?" He looked at her for a long moment, the corners of his mouth twitching slightly, but she wasn't in the mood for mystery. "Please don't do the brooding stoic thing again. Just talk." Scott nodded. "I spent 14 years in Special Forces. Most of my life was one operation after another. I didn't exactly have time to spend money. So yeah, I've got some saved up. And my family, they're well off. This hotel, family partnership." Lauren crossed her arms, still skeptical. "Then why were you working at the next ranch over?" "Because it needed fixing," Scott said plainly. "We bought that property. I was there to make it functional again." Her eyes widened. "You bought the Brown Ranch?" He nodded once. "Why didn't you tell me that? Why even buy it if you're living like this?" Scott shrugged. "It's an investment." Lauren let out a frustrated breath and grabbed her drink again, downing the rest in one long gulp. Scott watched with raised brows. "I'm tired of you dodging questions and keeping secrets. I'm a grown woman, Scott. Stop acting like I need babysitting." She slammed the empty glass onto the bar, turned around, stripped off her cover-up, and dove into the pool. Water splashed high as her body disappeared beneath the surface. Scott didn't move. He sipped his drink slowly, watching her swim. Graceful strokes, white bikini gleaming, wet hair slicked back, eyes lit like fire. She didn't look at him once. A hotel employee in a suit came up beside him, speaking quietly. Scott answered without taking his eyes off Lauren. By the time the conversation ended, she had climbed out, grabbed her things, and walked past him without a word. Scott didn't follow. An hour later, he knocked on her door. The sun had nearly set. No answer. After hesitating, he used his key card. Inside, 2 empty mini whiskey bottles sat on the table. The shower was running. Scott paused outside the bathroom, then turned away and sat down. He needed to explain. He owed her that much, but he didn't want to lose her trust. The door opened. Lauren stepped out in a robe, damp hair clinging to her neck. She jumped when she saw him. "Jesus, Scott, you scared me." "Sorry," he said softly. "I knocked, you didn't answer. I got worried." Lauren smirked. "Yeah, well, being part owner makes it easy to break in, huh?" Scott smiled faintly, nodding at the empty bottles. "Rough afternoon." She sat on the bed, exhaled slowly. "Just needed to stop my head from spinning." He stood. "Come on, let's get some food in you. You'll feel better." As he walked past, she reached out and caught his wrist. "Scott, can you sit with me, just for a minute?" He nodded, settling beside her. She covered her face with her hands. When she looked up again, there were tears in her eyes. "I'm not okay," she whispered. "Since my dad died, I've been trying to keep it all together, but I can't. I'm drowning, and I feel like no one sees it. Except you." Scott's heart clenched. He gently took her hand, cradling it between his. "You don't have to carry all of it alone, Lauren. You're not alone anymore." She pulled back slightly. "God, you're so calm, so composed. I tell you, I'm falling apart, and you act like I'm just drunk." "You're not drunk," he said quietly. "You're just tired." She shook her head, frustrated. No, you don't get it. You never let me in. You hide. You're like stone." Scott didn't respond. He just leaned in and kissed her, firm, deep, and unflinching. Lauren gasped slightly but didn't pull away. Her fingers curled into his shirt. When he pulled back, she stared at him, breathless. "What was that for?" she asked. His voice was rough. "Words aren't my thing." He brushed a lock of damp hair from her cheek. "But I'm here, Lauren. As long as you want me, I'm not going anywhere." This time, she was the one who kissed him, fierce, needing. The second kiss wasn't quiet, it was hungry. He responded with the same urgency. Their hands moved, without hesitation, over fabric, under skin. Clothes fell away between breathless gasps and lingering touches. They didn't speak. There was no need. They moved together as if they'd known each other for years. No more doubt, no more space, just heat, just trust, just them. Lauren woke with her cheek pressed to Scott's chest. His arm was still wrapped around her, holding her close like she belonged there. His skin was warm, his breathing even. Outside the window, Phoenix light was just starting to slip between the blinds. She didn't move, not yet. God, this man, cold as stone when he talks, but all that heat. He keeps it buried in the way he touches. She let her fingers brush along his ribs, careful not to wake him. "I thought he was made of steel. Turns out he's fire, just locked up behind too much silence." She stood, barefoot, and made her way to the mini fridge. That's when she saw it, his wallet on the floor. She bent down, picked it up, ready to set it on the table, but the card fell out. Scott Mitchell, Canyon Valley Estates, Vice President, Product and Land Development. Her pulse jumped. Her eyes froze on the words. Mitchell. She flipped open the wallet. Driver's license. Scott Liam Mitchell, born 1989, Phoenix, Arizona. A chill ran through her. She dropped the wallet on the bed and stared at it like it had just bitten her, then grabbed her clothes and started dressing fast, stuffing her phone and charger into her purse, just as she reached for the door. "Lauren?" She turned. Scott stood shirtless in the doorway to the bedroom, his eyes still hazy from sleep. The second he saw her half-dressed, half-panicked, his face sobered. "Where are you going?" Lauren held up the card between her fingers like a knife. "Who the hell are you, really?" Scott stepped forward. "Let me explain. You lied to me. This whole time. Mitchell, Canyon Valley, Vice President? You're not some drifter fixing fences. You're a goddamn land shark." Scott raised his hands. "Just slow down. I was gonna tell you." She cut him off, her voice shaking with fury. "Don't. Just don't. You came into my life like you were trying to help, trying to protect me. But now I don't know if you were protecting me or just setting me up." Scott moved closer. "Lauren, last night, what happened between us?" She backed away, her voice cracking. "Was that just part of it? Huh? Some play to win me over? Did you sleep with me because you wanted me, or because you thought it'd make it easier to take my land?" Her breath caught in her throat. "I let you touch me, Scott. I let you hold me. I believed every goddamn word that came out of your mouth." Her eyes welled up, but she blinked fast, refusing to let them fall. "I thought, maybe this time someone actually gave a damn about me. Not the ranch, not my name, me." Scott closed the distance in 2 strides. He caught her by the waist just as she turned to leave. "You're not going anywhere." She struggled, but his arms wrapped around her like steel. Not forceful, just final. "Let go of me." "No," he said, voice low, firm. "You're gonna listen now. You deserve the truth, and I'll give you every word of it. But first, you need to know this. What happened last night was real. Every second of it. I wanted you, Lauren. Hell, I still do." She was breathing hard now, frozen against him, his voice washing over her like a wave. Steady, grounding. "You think I planned that? That I laid in your bed, held you like that, looked in your eyes because it made business easier?" He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. There was heat there. Sorrow. Need. "No, ma'am. I touched you because I couldn't not. I kissed you because I'd go crazy if I didn't. And I loved every damn second of it." Lauren's lip quivered, but she held firm. "You still lied." Scott nodded once, slow. "Yeah, I did. And I'll make it right. But don't you dare stand there and tell me what we had last night wasn't real. Because that's the only thing that's been real in my life. In a damn long time." Scott stepped forward, quiet but firm. "I didn't come here to fool you, Lauren. I didn't lie about who I was. Everything I told you, about the military, about protecting you, that was real. I served for 14 years in Special Forces." That wasn't some cover story. She didn't say anything, but he could see it in her eyes. She was listening. "When I was 20, I lost my sister. We were in a car wreck. She didn't make it. Nobody blamed me, but I couldn't let it go. I left everything behind and joined the military. Did things I don't talk about. For years, I didn't come home. Didn't want to." He took a breath, his voice softening. "But 2 years ago, I did come back. My family needed me. I'm their only son, and Canyon Valley is ours. All those lands being bought up around here, that's the company. That's us." Lauren crossed her arms, pain and confusion still twisting in her expression. He held up a torn envelope. "These were the transfer papers. I was supposed to get your land. I tore them up last night." "Why?" she asked, almost whispering. "Because I don't want your land." He stepped closer. "I want you. I want to build something with you, not take something from you." She looked away, her throat tightening. Scott's voice lowered. Look, I don't have all the answers, but here's what I know. I want to stay on that ranch with you as a partner, maybe even more than that. He paused, choosing the words with care. My family still wants to invest in the valley, but we don't need your ranch to do it. I told them I'd handle it differently. I told them I found someone I don't want to walk away from. He looked at her fully now. I want to live there with you, build something real. I don't know where this leads, Lauren, but I know what I feel. I want a shot at this, with you. Lauren stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly she stepped forward, one small step that closed the space between them, and let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. Scott opened his arms and she walked straight into them. I need to know this isn't temporary, that you're not gonna disappear, Lauren said. Scott kissed her, brushing a loose strand of hair from her cheek. I'm not going anywhere. He paused. And neither is Garrett. He's done. Lauren blinked. What do you mean? I filed everything. Sheriff Lang's got enough to charge him with trespassing, arson, attempted assault. He won't touch you again. He won't even get close. A silence stretched between them, thick with relief. Lauren's shoulders dropped for the first time in days. You really handled it. Scott gave a quiet nod. You're safe now, with me. A few weeks later, back on the ranch, the Arizona sun was setting in long orange ribbons across the fields. The fences were mended. The fire-damaged barn had been rebuilt, and a new nameplate hung by the front porch. Jones Mitchell Ranch. Lauren leaned on the porch railing, sipping sweet tea from a mason jar, her bare feet tucked beneath her. Behind her, she could hear Scott in the kitchen, banging around like he had no idea where anything was. He didn't, but he was trying. That mattered. When he walked out with 2 crooked sandwiches and a lopsided grin, she laughed. Guess you ain't exactly a chef. Nope, he said, handing her a plate. But I can fix fences, ride better than most, and shoot straight when it counts. She tilted her head. That why you're still here? Scott leaned in, kissing her forehead. Nah, I'm here 'cause I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. Lauren smiled, soft and full. Hey, Mitchell, she said, teasing him with his real name. Yeah, Jones? I never thought I'd trust anyone again. Her voice dipped. But I'm glad it was you who made me believe again. Scott's arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her close. And there they stood, as the sky darkened and the desert quieted. Not just safer. We appreciate you spending time with our story. Let us know which moment hit you hardest. And hey, where in the world are you watching from? Tell us in the comments below. Let's make this a conversation.